Hello, and welcome to episode 6 of Chewing the Fat with me, Phil Cobley,
and me, Adam Furman.
And we've got a pretty good episode ahead of us, haven't we?
We have, if we do so.
It's pretty cool. We've got brilliant guest, fantastic guest of Alexis Brignoni, Briggs to some. Or Alex, so we found out that he gets called all sorts of things.
Yeah. He does, yeah.
So we've got a fantastic interview with him, whilst also not having realised that he was doing an interview with Forensic Focus.
Yeah.
So we've purposely, we're going to include a link to that because we do mention it. So we'll put a link to the interview we did with Krista Miller over at Forensic Focus. So we've specifically avoided the same questions.
Yeah, we didn't want to duplicate, did we?
No. We've got that coming up, and we've got some really cool industry news as well.
Yeah.
And he did give us a faux pas as well, didn't he?
He did. And, you also did the show introduction, didn't you?
I did. I completely forgot that we do the intro separately. And, when we started speaking with Briggs, I kind of was like, and welcome to episode 6. And it's like... Idiot. I wasn't thinking, was it?
Not a forensic faux pas, a podcast faux pas.
Podcast faux pas. So, the fact that when you start listening to that part, just ignore me saying that. Just, pretend I didn't do it. I clearly wasn't thinking.
No.
But
before we get into the news, what awesome item did you order this week?
Ah, yes. So, we were chatting, Adam and I were chatting, and... we've ordered some laptop stickers for Chewing the Fat.
Yeah.
So we've got a bunch coming. There's 2 different variations. Briggs was excited about it. We're sending him some. Might have to send some to all our previous guests as well. Yeah. So any of the previous guests, we'll drop you an email. We'll get in touch, see if you want one. So hopefully in the next show we'll be able to display some of the
we might have nice
stickers on the back of the machines, the laptops, tablets. So very excited about that. And maybe we could do a competition and you can win some or something.
Yeah.
Who knows? We don't know what we're going to do with them yet.
Yeah.
Because we've got loads. We have to bulk order them. I don't know. So we'll see what happens. So industry news. Let's crack on with the industry news. First on the list, this is a paper that you found, isn't it?
Yeah, it's by Graeme Horsman, who's a university lecturer. He's published a paper, and it's free, about digital evidence and the crime scene, exploring the concept of devices being digital witnesses, which is a good concept. It's a very good read, and it's free. So definitely recommended.
It's from the Elsevier, that paper publishing place. Yeah, so we'll get the link down below as always. Also, Microsoft have released. If anyone uses the Sysadmin tool, the Sysinternals tools, the Sysinternal tools with Microsoft, they've now released a new version for Linux. So you can actually get the Sysinternals tools on Linux machines. You've got a couple of dependencies you need to install before you can actually run it. But it's built by Microsoft. They've done it specifically so that any Linux administrators can utilise the tools across their networks and on their systems.
And they are cool tools. So.
They are very, very cool tools. And also, just on that note, the Sysinternal tools are now available on the latest version of the Microsoft Store as well.
Yeah.
So in Windows, you can literally just open up the Microsoft Store, install them. They're free, obviously, because they're part of the Microsoft Store. Windows will always keep them up to date with the latest versions, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, nice find.
Then we've got Kevin Pagano's blog, which was related to CTFs that he's been doing recently, the Cellebrite CTFs. If you've taken part in that, I hope you did okay. He's following that. He's produced a blog talking about Samsung power logs.
Yeah, power off and reset logs. And I think Alexis actually shared that he'd... I don't know where you get the time from, Kevin, but he's also done an iOS bit of research.
Yes.
So we'll try and find that and we'll link to that as well.
We'll find it and put it in the links below. Kevin, who does the Forensic Start Me page as well, which we can link again to that as well, because it's a really cool page. So why not? So great work, Kevin. Thank you again for all your work. So we've got Forensic Focus did an article encouraging different perspectives in digital forensics. Krista sometimes does these kind of blog posts and stuff specifically from Focus rather than getting guests in. And it's got references a lot of papers talking about kind of bias and various other bits and pieces. So it's actually quite a good read.
Yeah.
Very interesting. Lots and lots of links in there. So feel free to go and have a look at that. We've got, I thought it was quite interesting, there was some stuff again on Forensic Focus from Magnet talking about AFF4.
Yeah.
So if you're not familiar with that, it's a forensic kind of file container format, kind of similar to EO1, but they're trying to explain during, I think it's a transcripted video, so you can watch the video and it's got the transcript below it, trying to explain the benefits of AFF4 over EO1 and why it kind of is actually more efficient.
Yeah.
So I've not used AFF4. I'm not familiar.
No,
with it,
I've obviously seen it as options, but never utilised it. But it's supposed to be quicker, and you can start reviewing data whilst imaging, I believe.
Yes. Yeah. So and there's some time comparisons and there's some good examples and stuff in there. So go have a look at that if you're not familiar with it. Then we've got this article. The next one was one that you wanted to bring up, wasn't it?
Yeah. So it's in relation to some of the stuff that's going on in the background on iOS 15, and it's an actual article by Apple on their site about the machine learning and how Apple are doing things in the background when you leave your phone on charge overnight, and it's categorising the people in the gallery in your camera roll. And when you have a look, the latest version of XRY decodes some of that information and puts it into Examine, so people have now got identification ID. Because Apple are basically assigning each face an ID, and some of the stuff that they're detecting in these images is scary, isn't it?
It's terrifying. Adam showed me one of the databases earlier, and there is in the SQLite database, you've got a table in there, detected faces.
Detected faces, yeah.
And the amount of columns is just absurd. And you've got things like left eye shut, yes or no, right eye shut, yes or no, and
ethnicity, makeup, clothing.
Are they wearing a mask?
And the Swedish developers have done a really good job in finding that, because now within Examine you can find a face, it will have an ID, and then you can filter on that ID. So it's really going to help investigators out.
Yeah. So go have a look, have a read. Really interesting piece.
Yeah,
so it's good little find, that one. And then our last article that we're going to mention is actually from our guest, Briggs, with his interview with Forensic Focus, talking about Python and coding and why it's so important, and why he genuinely believes, and I think we agree very much the same, that coding should be part of every forensic examiner's toolset, and they should understand it so that you can understand the data better.
Yeah.
So really good interview, really interesting kind of stuff.
Yeah, and he sort of goes into the time he gave. So when we all first entered lockdown last year, Alexis started doing forensic study classes, didn't he, for Python? So
and they're all available on
his YouTube.
Yeah,
which we'll put a link to.
And if you're on the DFIR Discord, if you're in the DFIR Discord server, I think there's a whole channel that's kind of dedicated to that, or sections of it. So check it out. And with that, shall we cut over to see what Briggs had to say?
Sounds good.
And we're live. Welcome everyone, all our listeners, to the latest episode. Are we episode 6 now?
Episode
6 of Chewing the Fat, with I'm going to say it, the legend that is Alexis Brignoni, or Briggs, or Alex, or whatever you want to call him, really. Yeah. Some people might know as the DFIR glasses guy because your avatar, your logo.
I don't know. That's fine. Legend, not so much, but the rest, that's pretty okay.
And humble too. Well, you're a legend to me, so I'm going to stick with it.
I appreciate that.
But thank you for coming on the show. It's an absolute pleasure to have you.
No, it's an honor. I listen to avidly to your podcast. I really enjoy it. I tell people about it. So just me being able to be here, it's an honor.
Oh, bless you! Thank you. That's really I'm got a tear actually. That means an awful lot. Thank you. I have to ask actually before we get started though. Now I've mentioned the glasses. Where did the glasses come from? Like where did that come from?
So a friend of my brother, he's like a web designer, and he does all a creative type person. And I said, I wanna have like a little kind of nerdy looking thing for I'm trying to do some my Twitter post about nerd stuff that I like, forensics. Yeah. And he said, nerd? There's nothing more nerdy than glasses with a tape in the middle, when you broke them and you put tape around them. And it's like, in the 80s, that was like a really like a thing symbol. And he said, we're gonna make it like looks kind of like 8-bit type of design. And
nice.
I loved it, and that's the art, I guess, that I use. So
awesome. Now we know. Yeah, little factoid for us there. That should be in a quiz. That should be in a pub quiz.
It's all about being the nerd life. Hashtag nerd
exactly.
life.
Yeah. They are like the glasses that from the kind of thug life, aren't they?
Yeah.
Kind of properly. They do look like them a little bit. We should get someone to superimpose them on on you.
How many of those laptop stickers have you give out?
Oh, hundreds.
We have. Oh, sorry. Yes, talk about laptop stickers. We have just ordered some chewing the fat laptop stickers.
So we'll get one sent out.
So we'll get one sent to you if you'd like one.
I would love it. I will send some of mine back as well. So
amazing. We'll do an exchange. This is great. Awesome. We should probably talk about some digital forensic stuff, shouldn't we? Rather than just random. So, Briggs, I'm going to call you Briggs because I'm now thinking of aliens as well. I'm like, Briggs.
Yeah.
That's cool as well.
Yeah.
I'm going way off topic. Briggs, digital forensic examiner, FBI as well, of all things. Given that we try to run this pod a lot for a lot of newcomers into the industry and people kind of who are up and coming forensics persons or people moving into forensics from other disciplines, I think a lot of people already in the industry will know of your work, of the things that you do because you're quite active in the community. But for those who might be a little bit newer, would you mind just kind of giving us a little bit of an intro? Tell us a little bit about yourself, how you got into forensics and what it is that you do day to day?
Absolutely, and I appreciate you saying that. I mean, it's hard, even though we try to be active, it's hard to gauge how much impact one makes. So, hearing that people use the stuff that I put out is really encouraging. I've been doing forensics, I would say, almost for about 10 years, more or less. A little bit less, but hitting the 10-year mark. Before that, I was doing just regular law enforcement duties with federal law enforcement duties in the United States with the Federal Bureau of Investigation, FBI. And when you're new in the bureau, you get there with your suit on, like in the movies, and there's a walk-in, and you talk to the person that walks into the door, or then a few minutes later they say, "Hey, we're gonna do a search warrant. Put your vest on. Let's go." Right? that type of thing.
Welcome to the bureau.
Yeah, which is I mean, it's not forensics, but I'll say it anyways. But I had this case where we're doing a stopping some bank robbers. So part of my function, being the new guy, is to be inside the bank, and when the group was near the bank, close the doors, right? Make sure they cannot get in, so the SWAT team can intercept them outside, neutralize the threat, and all that, right? And I close the doors, and then this last person walks in, and I'm like, "Who are you?" Like, last minute I couldn't ID the person, so I had to point him out on the floor and all that, and more things happened that I cannot talk about. The poor guy was innocent. We're robbers. But I'm like, this is my first week. This is like crazy, right? And then fast forward 14 years, and that's the most exciting event in my career,
You peaked on day one.
Day one, yeah, in regards to, kind of being in the middle of the thing. And of course, I mean, I say that jokingly, but also true. And in law enforcement, and folks that are new and might be interested in this career, you can take it anywhere you want, right? You can be an operator and do SWAT type of stuff, and that's good, right? That's not my thing. I was lucky enough to be able to transition after doing my years of regular casework to then be specializing in digital forensics, right? And that's where the next part comes, on my career, where I've been lucky enough that my workplace has given me internal training, has provided external training, and I have a background, thankfully, from college, from university, with dealing with computers, which the FBI is really good at that. I mean, they hire for what they need, which again, that's like everybody does, but the Bureau is pretty good at that. So they thought ahead and said, we need people that know computers. We need people that know languages. I'm a native Spanish speaker.
Yeah.
And they have you do the regular, functionalities of an agent, and then they specialize in whatever you need. Hopefully that makes sense.
Yeah, that's cool. That's awesome. So did you kind of purposely choose to go into that digital forensics kind of world then?
So I was doing cyber, and the Bureau of Cyber is, it could be intrusions, both criminal and national security. And I'm staying away from the word hackers because I believe the negative connotation should die, because there shouldn't be anything not negative about the word hacker, right?
No.
So I'm using the word intrusions to express that negative, people that intrude in systems they shouldn't be into, right?
Yeah.
So I worked those for a long time, and then I was also working crimes against children, which if back a few years ago, if you were working computers, you were also working CSAM cases because they happen on computers. Now the FBI has kind of split it, and the CSAM cases are worked by criminal division investigators, because now the skill set, they have it, and then cyber is more specialized. They don't deal with those, they deal with intrusions and stuff like that. Right. And then I had a decision to make. As like, do I want to work intrusions the rest of my career, or do I want to look into other fields? And that's where the digital forensics came in. The FBI has a program called CART, Computer Analysis Response Team, one of the oldest labs in the world, actually. I mean, I say lab, but the concept of it, of looking at digital evidence, one of the first in the world. A lot of history there. So I'm like, I want to be part of that team. So
awesome.
I did show some work, put in for it. I got lucky enough that I got approved to get into it, and I've been doing that ever since as part of the CART team.
Amazing. That's really cool. I like that. And then since then, I guess with your digital forensics background, you are very active in the digital forensics community, aren't you? And you do a lot of things. And do you want to kind of tell people kind of the stuff that you've developed? I mean, I'm going to say like ALEAPP and ILEAPP and B-leap and C-leap and D-leap and E-leap and F-leap, all the leaps.
And it was I never planned to make it like an alphabet soup. It just came out like that, which actually I kind of like it. I think it's okay. It's pretty neat.
It's awesome. But yeah, you do so much for the community, and kind of what kind of inspired you to get into that kind of doing that kind of community work?
To be really honest, the first impulse was selfish, in the sense that the stuff that I'm doing it for me, right? Because I need it. I need to do a parser for something, or do an artifact for something. And Jessica Hyde, she's a founder at Exordia. She used to be digital forensics director for Magnet. And she said, put that together and put it in, you have like 20 random scripts, put them together, and people can use them too. And I said, you know what, that's a great idea. And she was the brainchild behind the whole XLEAP thing. But yeah, it started with me wanting to do it for my work. But then I started sharing it with other folks that they're like, have the same issue. Folks that are close to me geographically, examiners that I interact with.
Yeah.
And then I said, well, let's make a little blog and put it out there, because maybe more folks can find value in some of this. And then after that, I had no idea how to use GitHub or send pull requests or none of that. I had no idea. So I started looking into it, and then I found out that some folks wanted to contribute, and that's the part that I really fills me with joy, that I can see folks saying, look, we found something, and we implemented it in one of the tools that you started, because it's not my tool anymore. It's everybody's tool.
Yeah.
And that's been really gratifying. I have a core of 4 or 5 people that constantly put stuff in. And I want to mention their names. Kevin Pagano, Yogechka 3 really works on that. Geraldine Bly also does some of that work. There's a whole bunch of folks that help out.
Amazing. That's really cool. And yeah, the tools that you've written, I mean, I say it from behalf of the community, thank you. And to all of your contributors as well, because they're fantastic tools.
And we'll put links in the post to your blog, which I've found incredibly helpful, like when you first ripped apart House Party. I remember reading that blog post and into your favourite database, Phil.
Yeah, Realm. I hope I never see another Realm database in my life.
And when I did that app, House Party was not the only one. I found a couple of other apps. I think Tinder was one, if I'm not mistaken. they have a mix of Realm and SQLite. And I'm thinking, this is the next thing, right? And I don't know about you. My impression is, what happened?
I just, with the 4 mobile stuff, we've got a file format handbook that's coming out as part of the project next year, I think. And I had to write this Realm database chapter that I did with a very, very clever lady over in the Netherlands, the NFI, who helped me with that. Ginger, so thank you, Ginger, for all your help with that. But yeah, it was so weird. I was looking at this database and kind of trying to work it out and kind of looking at the blog and kind of reading about it and thinking, this is the next big thing. And then I was looking for apps that used it. I was like, what's happened to this? And then I think because Mongo bought them out, and so now MongoDB own Realm. And then I started looking through the documentation. I was like, guys, you've ruined this. This makes no sense anymore. I don't know what's going on.
What I've seen is a lot of JSON everywhere, and even JSON inside SQLite. A lot of that, as opposed to Realm. I've been doing a lot of JSON parsers, which, I mean, to me is easier. So I'm happy that that's becoming like a broad standard, because it's easy to parse.
Absolutely, the Realm stuff, because it's just like arrays and arrays and arrays and arrays, and it's just, it was horrible. I'm glad it's not really that.
But no, I think the blog, your tools, like this podcast, it's just all about the community, isn't it? And it's about sharing, and like the fantastic work that's been done on the Discord server. Yes. That site amazes me every day.
Yeah,
the people coming together.
Wonderful resource.
Yeah.
Fantastic, and just the way that everyone's so open to supporting one another, and kind of like I don't want to go into too much detail with it, because as we were saying before we started recording, I know that you did an interview with Forensic Focus and Krista, which came out yesterday.
18th.
Yeah, the 18th. And we will put a link to that actually in the description as well for anyone who wants to kind of access that. And we don't want to kind of tread on the toes and kind of repeat what was in that interview already. But you were talking a lot about the Python tutorials that you've been putting together for people and kind of helping people learn kind of coding in forensics and stuff like that, which, I mean, do you want to tell us just a little snippet of that without
absolutely. I mean, I'm gonna quote Alex Caithness. He's like a super legit guy, and he says, "Learn to code because every artifact exists because of code, right?" And that's something that I think as examiners we should be moving towards, to recognize that, look, these things that you're looking at came from code. You'll be well served by learning how to code, so you can actually understand them on a deeper level and properly, right? And I also mentioned a little bit of, adding to that some reverse engineering, which is my goal for the next couple of years, because I'm really weak at that. But yeah, having those, and I say Python because it's one of the more common programming languages, but you can do it in whatever you want. The idea is to try to get as close to that data. And I'm going to go a little bit tangent here. Data is abstractions, right? Data, at some point that you see, like, for example, a SQLite database, behind that scenes is just electrons maybe in a disk, right? Different states of magnetic force, right? So we're not going to go to the hex or the zeros. Sometimes we have to. We definitely don't want to go to the magnetic
you don't want to go to the physical disk.
That's way too down there. But try to get, as examiners, I think with code we can get as close as we can get into that abstraction and still make statements about reality that are intelligible, right? That tell a story, that solve a case, that establish facts, or disprove a lie, right? And sometimes by just depending on tool output, we cannot get that sense, that context, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, absolutely. We were talking about... sorry, go on.
Yeah, and I like the fact the book that you recommended people use, because that was actually the book that I was told to get when I learnt Python at university, so it still holds good, and I still recommend that book, Head First. It is Head First Python, isn't it?
Yep, that's correct.
Yeah. Because, and see if you remember this, there's a picture at the start of that book, because it explains how it's the different teaching ways used in the book, and there's a picture, and it says you will never forget this picture, but you'll forget the next line of text. Do you remember what the picture is?
I don't remember. I don't.
And the theory falls apart.
Yeah, it's a tiger. There's a picture of a tiger. It's on about page 10.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, they've got that in all the Head First books, actually, because I had to do it for Head First in, what was it? It's effectively coding models, and applying coding models and stuff. I had to do that for my masters, and yeah, it was just kind of reading that and then seeing the tiger and going, okay, we'll see.
I think one of the first things I coded sort of that was useful in like back in law enforcement is I wrote a simple batch script that used to run FTK Imager.
Yep.
And I used to get that to run, and then I was like, I can add a second drive, and then pretty much I'd hooked up every drive to my machine and just left it running. And then slowly over time I thought, I can add to this. I can start opening that text file and look for if the image is verified, and if it has verified, then I can branch and I can start IEF.
Yep.
And I was like, and all of this can be done without me sitting there at that computer. And that's how I started like enjoying coding and just automating everyday things. And because of that, our computer backlog went to zero. Because literally one person could run 20 machines and just run that batch script and start it on a Monday, go back to it 2 days later when it's all processed.
Well, and part of my tooling, and this is how some other examiners also use it, pretty much how I tell my tools to be used is for triaging, right?
Yeah.
Because I want to automate and do that funneling process, make it faster. For example, if I can do 20 extractions, which one should I put my heavy duty tooling first, right? Because we don't have 50 dongles of a tool because, at thousands of dollars a pop, we cannot afford so many dongles, right? So my tooling does is I run them all in a couple of minutes, I look at the report, and I can say, okay, this phone is the one that I should focus on, and then take my expensive dongle with the tool that I want to use, and then go from there, right? So it's all about automation, like you said, narrowing down that data, amount of data, funnel it down to the things you need to look at first. And take that backlog out. Automation, and it's something that as programmers we're trained to think of in terms of automation. Examiners, we don't, but I strongly believe that we should start ingraining that into the current and newer generation of examiners, forensic examiners, the need to automate more and more.
Yeah, absolutely. And with kind of doing your own scripts and and kind of tying different tools together, especially open source tools as well. And as we were saying before, it means that the person running those scripts or writing those scripts understands what's happening and understands what's going on, and it's like with your tools as well, like being able to use things like ALEAPP and ILEAPP, and actually having the open source tools there. It means that the examiners can actually see what's happening and what's being run and how everything is being automated and effectively how those processes operate, so that when they go to court, they can say, "Yep. Yes, this helped. This sped things up. It automated it, but I know exactly what it did."
Yeah.
And also, I want to mention something, and it's the errors. And we don't like errors. Nobody likes errors. Nobody likes to look at logs. And a lot of our tools kind of hide when something goes bad. And so my tooling, if something goes bad, I make the point of showing it. And the folks that code with me, I'm telling them. The listeners, if this doesn't make sense to you, don't worry about it. It's just to make a point. If you're using a try except within my scripts, avoid those, because if you're not handling the exception, what happened? It just goes through and doesn't let me know that something bad happened or nothing happened.
Yeah.
And there might still be data there, but the tool itself is just not letting me know that something wrong happened, right? So I believe there's more value in the error data sometimes than the actual data the tool finds.
Yeah.
And I also tell people, don't ignore the errors in your tooling. Look at those. There might be a treasure hidden within something that didn't parse correctly, or that the tool couldn't chew on that fat, from lack of a better term, right? There's value in there.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you're spot on. There needs to be a lot more emphasis on teaching people to read those logs and understand those logs, and actually kind of not, like you say, not hiding the issues, because we're there to dig deep and to try and work out what's going on.
And obviously we need to qualify hiding. I don't believe the tools hide it, right? It's an expression, right? Because it's in the log, right?
Yeah.
But it doesn't put it on the screen where I could see it unless I go to the logs. So I have to take a voluntary step to do that. And let's be real here, most of us don't do that, right?
Yeah.
So I try to, as my tool is running, I try to put some of those. There's an issue, put it right there. So at least you see, hey, I saw something pop up here. I need to then follow up on it.
Yeah, so almost like a completed but with errors kind of message, just to say, it's finished, it's done, but here's some errors. Go and have a look at them and see what's up. And I think there's a lot to be said for being very open and transparent, and which I really like about a lot of the tools that you've produced. So, and I think that you're quite passionate about making sure people aren't just entirely reliant on their paid-for tools, their forensic tools, aren't you? You're quite passionate about getting people to understand what's happening in the background, aren't you?
Well, and it comes obviously from personal experience, right? And thankfully, I haven't been burned by those things. And when I say burned, I mean by that is, for example, we had a case, we put everything on a timeline, and one of the main job descriptions of it's just putting things in timelines. That's examiners, analysts. That's what we do. Put stuff in timelines.
Yeah.
And everything was matching up, and then I had a mobile installation log working with an examiner friend of mine, Geraldine Bly, and we're like, this app got uninstalled at these times, which break the timeline.
Yeah.
Like, it's impossible that he could do these things without the app being installed, right? Like, it makes no sense. And we looked at it, and the timestamp for that log, test file log that is parsed by the tool, it was offsetting it. So if you offset the timestamp in the tool to my time zone, which is United States Eastern time, it offsets all the times for that. But that particular time could not be offset because it was already in Eastern time.
Yeah.
So if you put an Eastern time on an Eastern time, now that is off, right?
Yeah.
And let's say if that phone is from California, it's Pacific time, and you offset it to Pacific, the same issue, right? So we called the developers and said, look, this needs to be fixed. So now the timestamp doesn't offset. It's local time, whatever that time was. So it's on you to figure out what the local time for the phone was at that time. So we were able to then make sense of it. So we put the times where it needed to be kind of manually within the time line, and it worked. It was a paid tool, right? But tool, it's code, right? And code is made by humans. And humans, by definition, we're not perfect because perfection doesn't exist. Right? It's an aspiration. It's a goal. It's a concept, but it's not a thing. So we cannot forget about that. Either because our tools are paid and expensive doesn't mean they will not fail on you or not be aware of something that they need to be aware. And it's our job as examiners to make the tool makers aware of that, and not just be button pushers. I think we talked about that before. We can automate things, but then our real job is not so much the automating and pushing the button, it's the actual verification, validation, making sure that the data, go as close to the data as we can to make sure that it's telling us the truth, I should say.
That automation, like you say, it should be there to help speed up the process and kind of remove the need to do a lot of those manual tasks that could otherwise take a lot of time. But then the analysis part of things and the interpretation and adding context to data, that's very much for the examiner to do and for that analyst to actually try to do, and that takes time to kind of an experience to look at and understand the data and make sense of it.
And I take folks that I talk to, and even in courts when I testify, I try to impress upon people that the tool does is directs my attention to things that I need to know about. Does that make sense? So the tool doesn't do the analysis, and the tool can do correlation, can do timelines, can do many things. But what it's really doing is pointing my attention, directing me to what I need to focus on. And then I am the one that does that. And we talked about this before. The tool doesn't testify, right? We testify if it's a court. If you have if you're a stakeholder or you're working for a company and you're trying to explain what happened in an event or an incident, it's not the tool that tells the incident story, it's you, right?
Yeah.
So tools should be pointers, markers. They say, hey, look here, look there, right? Make it quicker and faster. But it's on the examiner, it's on you, and we cannot forget that. If the answer is that the tool show it to me, get out.
You're doing forensics wrong.
And that's the part of that we need to work on, and it's a never-ending process, because we're talking about Realm database a second ago, right? Tomorrow there might be something else, another new data structure, database format. It's a never-ending process, which this is what I like about this field. You will never get bored.
No.
Yes. Yeah. This is one of the reasons why I kind of really try and shy away from referring to anybody as an expert in this field, because we're all constantly learning and evolving and changing. And one minute you might be really, really knowledgeable about kind of something that's very vital and important. The next minute, everything that you learn might be completely null and void and obsolete, and you'll have to go and learn something else, and you'll be a novice at that, and you've got to kind of build that level of knowledge up again.
So that's why I enjoy this industry, because it does change.
Yeah.
And that's why I started. So I did computer and phones in law enforcement, but I preferred phones because they were constantly changing. Where most computer cases I worked, someone would have pushed a white paper out that was still relevant to the artifacts. Whereas with phones, you could publish a white paper, but 2 weeks later it's out of date.
You are a man after my own heart. I strongly, this is my opinion, I strongly believe the future is going to be mobile based. This whole thing about, and intrusions right now, they're really, with ransomware, right? Ransomware in computers and stuff like that. Ransom in phones and stuff like that, it's not going to be far behind. You know what I mean? And businesses are going to start moving as capabilities, go from phones to be able to have like virtual desktops in the air floating and stuff like that. It's going to be ridiculous.
Be on Minority Report with everything kind of.
At least from my experience in law enforcement, the majority of my cases is phones, right?
Yeah.
Like 70% upwards, it's phones. And other examiners have the same experience. Corporate still seems to be more server and endpoint based.
Yes.
Seems to be, but I think they're going to catch up to law enforcement eventually.
Yeah, I agree. I say it every single episode. I genuinely think that agree with you completely. Everything's going to be virtualized. Everything's going to be up in the cloud. We're not going to be kind of getting kind of laptops and imaging the hard drives anymore. We're going to be kind of remotely pulling data from those kind of virtual instances that are on a server somewhere. Yeah. And I think phones are going to go the same way. I think eventually we're going to have dumb clients that we're just going to have that are just throwaway replaceable. Yeah. You're going to log into your little dumb client and everything's going to be up in the cloud. And as things like 5G become more kind of prevalent and kind of we've got data access everywhere, everything's going to be remote. I don't think we're going to be. I think acquisition and imaging of actual physical devices is going to die out.
I agree, and it's interesting you say that, because my tool is really focused on the coding and interpretation aspect. Because I don't talk about it that much, but I agree with you. I believe that the acquisition of the data is going to continue to converge. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Where it's going to become pretty, and this is my opinion again, pretty standardized. But what people put into these instances, that's the part that need to be figured out. The decoding aspect.
Yeah, the analysis, like you say, and I think there's a lot of. Just from my experience from being in training for the last few years, I think there's an awful lot of. There's got to be a big shift in training and education from the very, very heavy acquisition training that kind of goes on. So we've kind of done kind of physical, logical of phones. You've got chip off. You've got kind of live acquisition of data from laptops, Chromebooks, all that kind of stuff. I think all the training is focused on getting the data. We need more training and education and resources and tools like the ones that you've produced to kind of support the analysis side more as time goes on.
Well, my pinned tweet in my Twitter account at Alexis Brignoni, it's called Types of Digital Forensic Reports. So it's a little kind of meme.
I love that. Yeah.
And I have one that says one of the type of forensic reports is 20 pages on acquisition and 1 page on analysis and conclusions. And I come across reports like that. Oh my goodness, a bunch of times. And people, we want to check that out. I try to be humorous about it. This type of reportings, right? And hopefully, like you said, I've seen that, but I think that's going to continue to change.
Yeah, I think so. So, from your experience, Ed, what do you see as the biggest challenge for digital forensics over the next kind of, say, 5 years?
I would say that the biggest challenge now is dealing with encryption, and it's a debate. And I shouldn't say debate. There is a philosophical sides to that, right? And I understand that. Like being in law enforcement, I'm not blind to the needs of privacy, and I support privacy, right?
Yeah.
Also, I understand the needs of being able to get the data to solve crimes because, breaking the law has no privacy rights. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. If you break the law, we need to investigate you. That's
well. I mean, if you're harming others, you don't have a right to hide that, right? There's no privacy rights to harming others, right? So how do we balance those? And I want to make folks clear because they hear, oh, this guy is a cop, so he wants to get into all my stuff. I'm it's a personal concept. I do not talk for the FBI. I do not represent the FBI. I'm talking of my own opinion. I'm a really strong privacy advocate, and I understand those issues. And at the same time, I understand the need to solve cases and protect everybody's rights. The right of privacy should not overpower safety of others, for example. And I think we can all agree to that.
Yeah.
So how do we do that? And I think it's fair that if I can find a way to get into the phone, for example, and then be able to reverse engineer the app and get to the data, obviously with the proper oversight, proper legal requirements. In the United States, the Constitution allows law enforcement to get to data if you have probable cause, if you know where it is, and a judge oversees and approves it, right? And you might not agree with that, and you have a philosophical, against it, but okay, noted. The Constitution is clear. I mean, if you want to change the Constitution, then you're welcome to do it as well. It's a democracy, right? But we have that authority, and it has to be properly done, right? You can't just break into apps because you want to. And if you're a police officer, you do that, you should go, in my opinion, you should go to jail, right?
Yeah.
And no, follow the established procedures, and if I can get into that encryption. So recently, I've been implementing code from Matthew Regnery. He's from France, a brilliant examiner expert, and he was able to, with all the pieces from an iPhone extraction, be able to decode Proton Mail emails and attachments, which I did the implementation for the attachments yesterday off of his work.
Amazing.
The capability is there. I mean,
yeah.
Proton Mail might change their system to make it more secure, so it's not vulnerable to our technique, and that's fair. And then we'll try to find a way to get into it again, proper oversight, law, search warrants, whatever it is, to help people. And I think that's a good balance.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the whole thing, isn't it? It's whether or not it's for the right reasons, and if you've got legitimate reasons that are looking to try and protect the public and kind of investigate criminality, then those are legitimate reasons. If you're just doing it because you want to spy on people and you're kind of doing anything nefarious, then fair enough. Those people should be stopped and put in jail, like you say.
And hopefully, I mean, I'm not going to go into this debate because debate then goes into, well, should app developers, put ways for law enforcement to be able to defeat that encryption on request, right? And that's a more thorny issue, right? I have my personal opinions on that, which I will not share.
Fair. Wise.
My organization has their point of view, and other organizations have other points of view, and that's something that society will have to grapple, and lawmakers have to grapple, and we'll see where that ends.
Yeah, I think very wise. We'll sidestep
park that,
sidestep away from the challenging, difficult issue. We'll avoid the complaints.
We'll talk about it when it's not recorded. How about that?
Once we've stopped recording. Once we've stopped recording, that's fine. And make sure it's definitely stopped as well. But it's definitely a debate that you could kind of go into and just you'd never resolve it. I don't think it's very, very challenging. Let's go back though to like the tools and the community and things like that. Is there anything like especially for new examiners? Is there anything that you would kind of give them like advice and kind of guidance on where they can go if they were interested in kind of either using your tools or if they wanted to get into kind of helping support them or contribute to them, is kind of how would people go about doing that?
So the things I would say for newer examiners is it's like martial arts, right? You get to the black belt after you master all the basics, right? And a black belt doesn't make you an expert. It just lets people know that you mastered the basics, okay?
Yeah.
So what does mastering the basics means? First, you need to understand, what your link files are if it's Windows, right? What yourplists are as a concept. What are key value pairs? Understand that. When you understand that, then you can say, okay, how can I go the next step? And is try to manage those myself. So do that basic understanding. It's my opinion. It's hard to be an examiner, a new examiner, and then try to code straight up. I would recommend put some time in to understand your artifacts, understand your tooling, your file systems, have that baseline of knowledge. When you have that baseline of knowledge, then the next step is you're a tool user. So how can I be an analyst of the data and a tool developer, right? So that's the next step. So I recommend Python because it's ubiquitous, has many libraries that will help you. And people are surprised to know that Python is 30 years old.
So I did not know that until I watched your interview with Krista. I didn't know that.
And you say, Python, that's like super, And no, actually, it came out to, I remember back in the day, I also did a little bit of Perl developing. And I did not like Perl, so I started doing some PHP, which back in the day was the thing. And Python was kind of scripting language to kind of supersede, in my opinion, Perl. And now it's become this big thing. I think this month it just reached the user index, the top of the user index above C++ or C# and Java for the first time in 20 years.
Wow.
And I'm just saying that because that's what I recommend, but you don't have to. You can use Ruby, you can use whatever you want. The idea is for you to say, okay, I know what my artifacts are, I know what a plist is, I know what an XML file is, I know what a text file is, right? How can then I can manage those myself? How can I identify them, open them, read what's in it that I care about, and then change format, make it something that somebody can get value out of it. Value could be an Excel spreadsheet with all the chats lined up line by line. Value could be a map, a KML file that you can put in Google Maps and shows all the geolocation points in a map. Value could be, hey, all these entries in this log have timestamps. I'm going to put them in a SQLite database, so the next person can do queries on it, right? It's transformation. You're taking data from one format and put it in a format that's digestible for others. And there's a lot of, hopefully that makes sense. So if you're beginning, again, recapping, understanding the artifacts, start understanding how to open those with Python, for example, pulling stuff out and then saving it as something else. If you do those 4 steps, you'll be amazed of how much you can achieve. And I have resources for that. I have a little video on my YouTube channel on, first of all, how to run Python, because it's hard to learn Python if you don't even know how to run it.
That's a very good point.
How about running a script first, right? So run the scripts. Obviously, it goes with installation. Install it, run the scripts. After you get that done, I have a series of videos on how you can learn how to code, really forensic focused, digital forensic focused. And you can get through some of those. There's books abound. But the real learning, and we're talking about it a second ago, is by doing, right? Reading is good, being told is good, doing is best. And that's how you actually learn, by doing.
It's great fun, and when you're kind of doing your coding and then trying to get something to work, and you're just like, why isn't this working? And then problem solving, and then working out how you can fix it.
And I always recommend people to use the great images that Josh Hickman put together, because you've got known data sets to search for. And you know what should be there. So
absolutely, he documents them so well, so you can just pick them up and just go, right, what should be in here, what can I find?
And that's a good point in regards to sharing, being part of the community. You don't have to just code, right? You can create images. You could say, look, I understand what this script does. I'm going to write a little tutorial on how to use it. Or this artifact, the output of this, let's say, ALEAPP gives you an XML report. Well, you can say, okay, I want to make a little article that goes into that report and gives it more context. Okay? Heck, if you see, which you will see, a lot of typos in my stuff, tell me, so I can fix them, right? And
Yeah.
that provides value to the community. So don't feel that, well, if I don't do something that's brand new that nobody's seen before, I cannot contribute. You can. And there's many things you can do it. And you'll be surprised. Some of the things I appreciate the most is not even the new code or new artifacts, is letting me know and letting people know the meaning behind an output. How can they get value off of it? How you used it in a case. How useful was for you and others. And that, to me, has even more value than a brand new artifact.
Sharing experiences and helping others learn and develop as well. Yeah, absolutely. And which kind of is why the DFIR Discord is so great, because I know you've put a lot of stuff on there about your Python tutorials, and I think there's a channel for it, isn't there?
So my YouTube channel has a playlist for the class, so that way you don't have to hunt it down in the channel. Go to the playlist, and there's one for the Defer Python study group.
Perfect. So yeah, and then in that Discord community, you can kind of start talking to people. You can chat. You can share experiences.
There's a room for that for the Python group, but there's also other rooms. For the one that I hang out the most is decoding. Again, it's kind of like my thing.
Yeah.
Acquisition, I'm the worst. I like people to give me the stuff, and then I'll look at it. I'm not gonna pull it out for you.
Yeah, fair. But that's it, and just kind of encouraging people not to necessarily feel like they need to be a lurker in this community, but to actually talk and chat and kind of just say hi to people and get involved. And like you say,
and even if you're lurking, right? If you're by reading, there'll be people coming up with questions that I've never thought of. Like, you know what? That's good to know. And I follow the thread, and I at least I put a thumbs up, so they know that I appreciate that line of questioning.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. So yeah. Anyone listening, if you're not on DFIR Discord, go get signed up. We'll put a link in so that you can go join that.
Perfect.
Awesome. And also, I just want to cover. I'm going to say my favourite line of the show. I'm very conscious of time. But yeah, am I right in thinking? And correct me if I'm wrong. And apologies if I get mixed up here. But is ALEAPP and ALEAPP and that there's integrations for autopsy now, isn't there?
That is correct. That's work that Mark McKinnon did. Also a great examiner. I owe him a lot as well. He's been doing some for Chromebooks as well. But again, obviously, that's one of the things I like about the open source tooling is that I can iterate faster than other tools. And Autopsy is open source, but they follow the proper software development cycle. So they make sure things are done in a certain way, which they should and they do. So that's why development is a little bit slower than, let's say, us. Like, I have an artifact that I need today. In a few hours, I cranked it out. But they have implementations for some artifacts already from ALEAPP and ILEAPP, and not all of them. If you're going to run the tooling through Autopsy, make sure you check the plugins folder, because it will give you all the output that my tooling gives you, which the Autopsy interface might not have. So Autopsy interface will have a whole bunch, but not all of them. And that speaks to the point of, we need you to be part of this community, and you can add some of that mapping between ALEAPP and Autopsy. If people could work on that, that would be awesome. I only have so many hours in a day.
Yeah, exactly. And you do all of this in your spare time as well, don't you? So it's not even part of your job. It's like this is kind of all stuff you do for the community and for others. So so call to arms if anyone can help. Mapping all that stuff.
And I try to keep my code like the Goldilocks, right? Neither not too hot nor too cold, right? Because if you make the code and your thing really advanced and complex, it's a barrier for entry, right? If you make it too simple, it's gonna lose functionality, right? So I want to tell folks that hopefully the stuff that we build is, Goldilocks porridge, hopefully. So don't be afraid.
So when you've been taking these sort of forensic tutorial in Python, how much have you learned from some students? Because I know that I've taught Python to people, and I've got how I would code it down in front of me, and some of the ways people tackle the same problem amazes me. Did you find any of that from those?
So before I started the course, I had to talk about Yogesh Khattri. He's now in Australia and doing tremendous work there in the private sector. And he was a mentor with me in Python. He really looked at some of my code and said, this is good, but maybe you want to consider this. And then I'm like, yeah, what I just showed you is trash. This is such an improvement. So I owe him a lot, and I've been lucky enough to have good mentors. And if you have a good mentor, appreciate their contribution to your life. They come to your life, and obviously they leave, but what they gave you remains, and be conscious and appreciative of that. Now, in regards to students, I learn a lot, right? At the newer students, I learn how over complex sometimes our thought process is when you don't understand all the tools. For example, let's say you have a spoon, and you have a fork, and you have a nail, and there's a hammer, but you don't know it's there. And let me tell you, you put enough pressure with that spoon, eventually you can put that nail in. Or you can use a hammer, right? So I've seen students using spoons, which is kind of funny because that creative process of using that spoon leads me to other things that I didn't think about before. Does that make sense? So I know my analogies are really convoluted, but folks, hopefully you're following. Don't feel afraid if you're pushing nails with spoons. There's value there too. And whoever's listening to this, if someone listens to this analogy midway, they'll be like, "This guy is insane."
We've lost it. We've gone off.
But there's value in pushing nails with spoons, all right?
Yeah.
Eventually, you'll learn how to use a hammer.
Okay, we have to get some laptop stickers done with just like some spoons pushing against some nails. It's like coding is life.
No, well, there's value in the process. So there's this meme that I like, and somebody said it. The meme is like my code, and it shows a pigeon, and the pigeon's about to fly, but instead of flapping its wings, it starts cranking its neck. And it cranks it so fast, it works like a helicopter. So the pigeon is flying, like going like a chopper, right, with his head going around. I mean, it's flying, right? So I guess the purpose was accomplished. So there's no wrong way of flying as long as you're flying, right?
Yeah, I like that. I've got this brilliant image in my head now.
Yeah, so
I've got the helicopter noise in my head now as well.
and I like that. Some of my code is like that, but then we refine it and we learn how to use our wings. But hey, we learn how to make a chopper out of a pigeon.
Yeah, exactly. That's another sticker going there. That's it. I'm going to get these made. That is it. If there's anyone listening out there who's a graphic artist who wants to do us a really cool,
I know a guy. I know Kevin. If he's listening, he might get motivated. We'll see.
Nice. Let's see if we can. Yeah. Please, Kevin. Oh, amazing. Right, I am very conscious of time now because we've still got some more parts of the show to record, and we're kind of 50 minutes in now. Yeah. It's just so easy just kind of talking about this stuff. This is how we just lose track.
It's all the spoons and the pigeon choppers.
That's it, the pigeon choppers and the spoons and the nails. That's
the really relevant digital forensic stuff.
That might have to be the title of this one, actually. Spoons of nails and pigeon choppers. A chat with Briggs. I think we're probably going to have to, unfortunately, call, at least for the recording anyway, call this to a close. But Briggs, thank you ever so much for your time. It has genuinely been such a pleasure. Really good fun.
Thank you for having me. I'm a big fan of the show, and an honor again to be part of it. It's a highlight. I appreciate it.
No, thank you. It genuinely means a lot to hear that. So thank you ever so much. But yeah, thank you so much. And if ever you want to come back on the show, then please just reach out, let us know. If you've got anything you want us to advertise or talk about and kind of tell the community about, again, also just let us know. We can be a voice for you if you want.
I'm going to recommend at some point, do an episode where you bring 3 or 4 folks that you bring in the past, like a panel thing.
Oh yeah.
I think that would be fun because it's more of me just to say that I've been part of a panel with Josh and a few other things.
Yeah. We should totally. Well, we keep saying that at some point we actually want to do a show where we'd like live at an event or something like that, and we'll just bring a sofa with us and we'll just sit and we'll just record stuff or just do live kind of chats.
Yeah, because thankfully, we're allowed to fly to the US as of next month.
Yeah.
So
maybe we can. Yeah, if anyone wants to invite us to a show, we'll do a live gig. Just putting it out there.
Absolutely. The universe will make it happen. You'll see.
Fingers crossed. That'll be great. But yeah, Briggs, thank you ever so much again.
Yeah.
And take care, and please don't be a stranger.
Absolutely. Thank you so much,
Thanks,
guys.
Briggs.
Appreciate it.
And that was Briggs.
Yeah. Who would have known about pigeon and helicopter?
Pigeon helicopter. What was it? Spoon and a nail.
Spoon and a nail, yeah.
Yeah, I still want to get that T-shirt made
Yeah.
up. That's got to make an appearance at
Yeah,
some point. It's got to make an appearance. Such a nice guy as well.
Yeah, really nice guy.
Yeah, so Briggs, thank you ever so much for your time. Honestly, it was really good fun. But he did give us a faux pas, didn't he?
He did. We
Encouraged
convinced.
him.
Yeah, we encouraged him.
Encouraged.
Yeah.
Strongly encouraged. So without further ado, let's cut over to that. Okay, Briggs, you're back. You are back. We couldn't let you go yet. There's one more very, very important thing that we need to ask you.
Oh my goodness.
It's that part of the show. This is obviously, and for those people who are new to the show, who haven't listened to it before, we've got our forensic faux pas, where we ask our guest whether or not they are willing, and they don't have to, we don't force them, we don't coerce them, whether they are willing to share a faux pas of something forensic related where something has gone horribly wrong, because we all do it, we all get it wrong.
No, I wasn't forced, I was strongly
I think his
encouraged.
video's frozen. Oh, you're back. All right, I don't know if that came on the recording or not.
No.
Yeah, you're back. It's all right. We'll leave it in. It can be, live bloopers. That's fine.
Hey, we got a faux pas right here. Now we're gonna add one more.
Yeah, exactly. So Briggs, would you please grace us with your forensic faux pas, whatever it might be?
Well, I hope it's something that people can relate, because it's my belief that most people do it, and if they don't, then don't tell me. Let me believe that it's widespread. It wasn't just me being, a genius in reverse. So I had this case, right, and back in the day before I had my first TD3, if you're not familiar with that, it's Tableau's little box that you can copy disk. Mm-hmm. Now I have a TX1, I think it is the name.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, and I love those boxes. I don't image with anything else anymore. If it's hard drives or thumb drives. I digress. The point is this. Before I got that equipment, I used to do my imaging on my forensic desktop or server, whatever, with an FTK imager, right? You put your right blocker in and you start imaging. And after you image your stuff, you process and work your cases. So I have my case, and I image the drive, and I process the evidence, and I'm starting to go at it, and I'm like, I've seen some of this data before. This data is from this other suspect. This is interesting. There must be something to it. And the thing that was to it is that I imaged my own hard drive from my forensic machine instead of imaging the evidence drive. Yeah. So I'm like, okay, genius, let's scrap the whole thing. And you've seen it. It's FTK. Select your source drive. It's like a whole bunch of little lines, and if you're not really careful, you don't click the right line. Mm-hmm. The tool images whatever you pointed to.
That's it. It starts off. It defaults to your own drive, doesn't it? Yeah. And you can easily click next and not realize. And it's. I think we've all been there in some way, shape, or form. You're like, this person's got forensic tools. What are they doing? Oh yeah, and in my case, I because it was a Sysadmin case, so I narrowed down on the images, and I'm like, I seen this other suspect. What is he doing on my other suspect's computer? Is it like a ring of criminals that I should get
uncovered
into,
a ring?
Yeah.
That's when you get the boss in. You're like, boss, you've got to come look at this. I think there's a conspiracy going on here.
Yeah, no, it must be a big case. No, it was me just not clicking the right buttons. There, me being as attentive. And I guess that's a lesson there, right? With your validation and verification. Even if you follow your procedures, always have at least a sanity check, especially if you're going to hand it over to somebody else. Because you could, sometimes you just image it and you don't do the analysis. You just hand it over. Yeah. And then somebody else does the analysis. So make sure you do a sanity check on your stuff. look at your source drive log.
Yeah.
You copy the hard drive. You know what I mean?
Absolutely, yeah.
But
So
no,
there we go.
I've definitely done it.
Oh, yeah, it's a rite of passage. Yeah, absolutely. If you haven't imaged your hard drive, are you even doing forensics?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. Oh, brilliant. Thank you ever so much for sharing that. I really hope that if there's any new people listening, then it just gives them the reassurance that it's okay. It does happen. Even the best of us.
And if you haven't done it, now you can avoid it.
Yeah. Yeah. Or give it a try, because everyone wants that.
Yeah.
Like do it like last thing on a Friday, just before we're going to go home.
As long as you don't confuse the source with the destination,
Yes.
you'll be fine.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh,
Don't
yeah.
do that one. And I've been paranoid about not doing that one, so don't do that one. All the other ones are allowed.
It's like the forensics kind of equivalent of always wearing protection, isn't it? So it's like always wear a right blocker, kids. Always use a right blocker. You don't want to suffer the consequences.
Well, and the TX ones, right? You have a side that's right block and a side that's not, right? Make sure you know your sides.
Yes, yeah. Make sure you source destination absolutely spot on. Yeah, especially if you're doing like a drive wipe or something, or cloning or whatever. Just get that correct. Awesome. Well, Briggs, thank you ever so much.
Thank you once again.
It's been an absolute pleasure having you on the show, and we'd love to have you back sometime.
I'll be honored. I would love to. Thank you so much.
Amazing. Yeah.
Cheers, Briggs.
Thanks ever so much, and you look after yourself.
Bye-bye.
Take care.
Cheers. Hard drive again.
Yep.
I mean,
And see, even legends
even
make
legends.
faux pas.
Exactly. So, bless him. Once again, Briggs, thank you. Thank you to you guys, the listeners, for tuning in and kind of all the wonderful support that we keep getting.
And we did, at the end of the last show, put out a Twitter poll asking, should we do video or just audio? Mm-hmm. And very unhelpfully, it was 50-50.
It was literally 50-50. So we're going to have to still do both for a while.
Yeah.
Oh well. It means more work for you.
And we get to have a meet up, so it's good.
It does, yeah. We can meet here and kind of actually sit together.
Yeah.
rather than-
And we are hoping, possibly next year, to do a live one.
We'd love to do a live one.
Yeah.
Yes. Hopefully at an event somewhere, like one of the forensic events or something. We don't mind where it is. Anyone want to invite us?
Alexis said about going over to the US, didn't he? So we could go to, I don't know, Florida or Hawaii.
Yep, somewhere really nice.
Yeah.
Please feel free to let us come.
It'll be painful, but we'd take one for the team. wouldn't
We would. Twist our arm. We'll do it.
Yeah. And we'd give you a free chewing the fat laptop sticker.
Exactly. You can choose from one of the two options
Yeah.
as well. There's, why wouldn't
They
you?
can't have both, just one.
Can't have both. No.
To get both, you have to be a guest that comes on twice.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah.
So maybe we have to give all the guests the same one, and who come back and get the second one. That's more prestigious.
Incentive to get them back.
Like I like it. I like where your head's at. Nice.
Ex-law enforcement, you get nothing for free.
No. We also need to make sure we don't leave them lying around.
Yeah.
Because they will go.
They will do, yeah. Like law enforcement.
Yeah. Any of the coppers out there, you'll know. If we say like just a black biro just left on the side, it will be gone.
Yeah. The best story, and apologies to my ex-colleagues who know this one. Police uniform. So we were on night shifts, and my colleague had his flat cap. And when we used to start our shift, this is when I was back frontline policing, we used to leave our kit bags by the back door, so we were ready to go straight after briefing. So his kit bag was there with his flat cap on top, and we went up to briefing, and briefing generally lasts 10-20 minutes.
Yeah.
And when we come down, his flat cap had gone, which is common practice in the police. So it is.
Yep.
So he was mightily annoyed. He ended up having to do a report and basically to get a new bit of kit. Because you either had to return damaged or you had to justify why you lost it and got a slap on the wrist. So he did that, and roll on the next set of shifts, his new flat cap had come, and we did our usual routine, kit bags at the back door, his flat cap on top of his bag, and when we come out of briefing, his brand new flat cap had gone, but the old one was back in its place.
That is typical police.
Yeah, that's one of my favourite stories.
I like that. Good work. And on that note,
Yes.
Thank you to our listeners and viewers, and whichever platform you're on for this. We look forward to recording the next one. Hopefully you've enjoyed the show, and we look forward to seeing you next time.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.